Waiting for this to go live. All right. I believe we are live, sir. Can you
Sounds
hear
good.
me? Okay,
I can hear you.
I didn't
I
hear
can hear
anything
you.
there.
I can hear
Okay.
you.
I can hear you. I can see you and I can hear you. Okay.
Do you think I'm too far from the mic, or you think I'm good?
Uh,
I'm going
eh,
to keep on talking. I'm going to keep on talking with the mic, probably about a good
yeah, I'm about
3
that far.
inches.
There you
Okay,
go.
I think we're good then. We're good.
Is that 3 inches?
It depends on who you talk to.
Hello. Okay. All right. Enough.
Yes.
Censored. All right, my friend. Let us jump in.
Yes.
Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is That's a Crime. I'm Jason Connell.
And I'm Sal Rodriguez.
All right, Sal. We are back for another crime.
Yes, and a sad one, an unfortunate one, and one I didn't know about myself.
All the above. I learned about this recently. I've heard of similar crimes. And then the more I read, I thought, oh my gosh, we have to discuss this. And yes, as I read the gruesome details, it's a tough one. There are moments that really were hard to stomach. So it's going to be one of those tougher episodes where we have to flex different muscles, but important nonetheless. And today we are breaking down the true crime story of the TikTok star and friend murdered while watching The Forever Purge in 2021. So a lot there, a lot to pack and unpack in that title. So
a
let's
lot of
start
things,
with
a lot of things intersecting there.
yeah. So TikTok, you want to
Sure.
give anybody who's not familiar, who hasn't heard of this, it's one of the the last one to emerge from social media platforms, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe just throw us a quick definition of TikTok.
Well, TikTok is TikTok is a social media platform that seems to specialize in short vertical content. So your phone is vertical as opposed to landscape on its side, and short. These most videos are, I think, under a minute, 45 seconds on the long end. So people are uploading, anything from lip syncing to educational. There's an infinite number of what's on TikTok. But then it was controversial recently in politics because people thought that the Chinese were spying on US through TikTok. So TikTok has gone through controversy, but it is still popular. However, I still think though, things like YouTube Shorts and Instagram are keeping up with TikTok and its popularity. I do think
it's always something new. It's like, oh, this is the thing. But
Yes,
then everyone else, Instagram has like you can film and go live as well. And we're going live now on YouTube. So other platforms can do this.
Yes.
But TikTok really made it like grab phone, record, and it's uploaded. And
well, because what's happening, you know what's happening, Jason, just to be clear, is that other platforms are trying to keep up with TikTok. Is what they're doing.
That's it.
And like YouTube, because YouTube has YouTube Shorts. They're trying to, and my point is, I believe they're doing a good job of it. Actually, I think they are keeping up with TikTok in their platforms.
Right. Well, if you're a star on TikTok, you have lots of followers, and the word star, but this is like made this article pop more. Like it probably came up because it had another layer, had a TikTok star and friend. But getting to the murdered part while watching The Forever Purge. Now, I nearly put horror movie in there, but I left it as the movie. The Forever Purge is a movie for those who have not heard of it. It's part of the Purge franchise. And just to back it up one iota here, purge, the noun, the definition is an abrupt. I'm sorry, let me do it again. An abrupt. You read it. I'm struggling that word.
Purge is a noun defined as an abrupt or violent removal of a group of people. And what I knew about the movie Purge is like one night a year, everyone's allowed to commit horrific crimes and it's legal. It's crazy.
Yeah, abrupt. Sorry, I was reading that wrong on my screen. So that's the definition of Purge. So the Purge, the movie, the first one comes out in 2013. And yes, it's a horror film that features a night of lawlessness and killing. So it's like, hey, sometimes they say this about deer. Like you got to hunt I don't hunt, but I hunt these deer because the numbers are so high. We have to cut down the herd, right? Like that's the theory sometimes.
Right, cull the herd.
Yeah, so they you know, a lot of guys go out and shoot and get X amount
Yes.
for, you know, for eating and this, that, and the other. But the reason is if they don't do it, there'll be deer everywhere. Like when I was in Australia, you don't hunt kangaroo, but there are areas where they're oversaturated. There's so many, they're just going in traffic. So at some
Yes.
point in time, they have to do something. So the theory in this movie, or the thinking is, one night a week, you can kill anybody from this time to this time, no
Wait, one night a
questions
year.
asked. So yeah, sorry, one time. No, it's one night a week. So it's
Holy
one night a
cow.
week. Yeah,
That's a
it's a
busy
real
year, man.
scary place. Yeah,
Yes.
one night a year. It's called The
Yes.
Purge, and most families just like hunker down, and they don't go
I
out.
bet.
Their home is like fortified, and they're
Yes.
safe. And the first one was really enjoyable for what it was. You know, it had what's his name? Hawk, had Ethan Hawke in it. And it was like, wow, this is a really well done movie. Blumhouse comes out with it. And of course, you're watching it going, yeah, if this works, this could be a franchise. Well, then they made The Purge Anarchy in 2014, which I also saw, not as good. Then that's all I saw was the first two. Then The Purge Election Year 2016, The First Purge 2018, The Purge, the series 2018 through 2019, and The Forever Purge 2021. So
I saw two
made
of those.
a lot. Two of those.
I saw two. Yeah, for
Which
sure.
one did you see?
I saw the first one, and then I think I saw Election Year.
Okay. Well, this is also, I have issues with these movies that don't know what to do with the names. Back in the day, it would just be The Purge, The Purge 2, The Purge 3. But no, it gets confusing. So now it's The Forever Purge. And on this one, I read the synopsis. It's like, they don't want Purge night to end. They do want it like once a week or just indefinitely.
Yeah,
but
yes.
anyway, so here's this movie. I had not seen it in the theater, but I did see the first two in the theater.
Yes.
And these people are murdered just to go see this movie. So it's like, it's stranger than fiction. It's more horrific than the movie. And there's a lot to go through here. And it's a lot of sadness because it's real life. Is it just Jason, a fun, movie game or something?
Well, that's the thing. I think that's what makes this whole thing even worse than it even is. And that is, we're trying to figure out, well, was the fact that they were watching this movie just coincidence? They could have been watching any movie. When you see how this whole thing went down, they really could have been watching any movie. It just so happens they happen to be watching this movie. And then when you see the outcome, you wonder if the movie had anything to do with this.
Yeah. So let's jump in.
Yes.
On July 26th, 2021, 19-year-old TikTok star Anthony Barajas, right? Barajas? Barajas. And 18-year-old Riley Goodrich went to a 9:35 p.m. screening of The Forever Purge at the Regal Edwards Corona Crossing movie theater in Corona, California, which you're probably familiar, Sal, with.
Oh, yes,
Corona.
Yes. I've spent a little bit of time in Corona, but mainly driven through Corona, visiting family in nearby areas. Yeah.
So in regards to Barajas, his TikTok is at It's Anthony Michael, still active. Check it out.
It is.
And he had and has nearly 1 million followers.
Yes.
Who came to know him through his lip syncing videos, as you spoke about earlier. People do that, skits with his friends, and musing on relationships and heartache.
Yes.
So he seemed to be really fun, good natured. You just see his images. I didn't watch too many videos, but I was like, wow, this seems like a really, and he's a 19-year-old kid, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I watched one of his videos. He's doing like reviewing bottles of shampoo. He's in the shower. He's being silly. He's doing stuff with his hair, just being silly. He was a young, good-looking guy getting a following on social media. Everything was going great, right? So it would appear.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, as for this horrific and gruesome night, Corona police shared that both Barajas and Goodrich were shot in the head, execution style, while watching the movie, The Forever Purge, which is just, anytime I hear that execution style, it's always just makes me just go numb. Like, it's just too like, wait, what?
Because that means like with deliberate certainty, maybe to the head, maybe to the chest, like, right? Like you are trying. It's not like I shot at a guy, running down the street. I mean, you are trying to kill this person. That's what that implies. Yes.
Yes. And they have that moment that we only see in movies, hopefully. It's like, wait, what? You're dealing with, yeah, it's too much. It hurts to even talk about it. But oof. So the police went on to describe the shootings as an unprovoked attack, and that there were only 6 people in the audience, because I've heard of other incidences like this in movie theaters where it was an escalation of something. Like, hey, get off your phone. Hey, no. And then
Sure.
it's led to, and that's like recent as well. But this is 2 people watching a movie, only 6 in the theater, and they get killed execution style, unprovoked.
Well, this is where when you first brought this to my attention, I thought it was one of those things, especially because he's a TikTok star, like the killing of Selena, right? It was one of her. It was the president of her fan club who killed her.
Right.
So when we thought,
that's what was going off.
I was like, oh my God, a TikTok. Who was it? One of his fans? No, the fact that he was a TikTok star was just a coincidence. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. That could have been anybody. Could have been any of us sitting over there.
Yeah, you might have been thinking it's one of those escalation things where it's like, I'm on my TikTok, I'm doing it right now, and they're pissing everybody off. But no, not that. Just happens to be this, and just a good person. So as for the other patrons, because there's 4 other people in the theater, the suspect, Joseph Jimenez, was among them, along with 3 of his friends. So really just 2 parties of people. And I've been to many theaters, Sal, when 9:35 screening. I don't know how long the movie was out now. It maybe had simmered down. And I've been to a lot of screenings where it's just me and Sophia, or, those, you like those intimate screenings.
Yeah. Like, hey, everybody's in there. This is great. It's
like
fantastic.
A private show, or, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Kick my feet up.
Yeah. You almost wish it was a packed house then, because it just strengthens the odds and maybe this doesn't happen. But one of the friends in question, Julian Velasquez, stated that Jimenez was acting strange. And so, yeah, I'd say so because of what happens. But Sal, why don't you read what Julian had to say?
He was quiet at first, but he got stranger as the movie continued. He kept staring at us, making us uncomfortable. He was staring at us like he wanted to punch us in the face. That type of stare. And he's your friend?
He's your friend. Yes.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
So
they obviously knew. I think that they were his friends, right? They kind of were on edge probably already, because if you all of a sudden turn weird on me, I would still be like, I'd be trying to figure it out. Like, what's going on here? I wouldn't just something? I wouldn't be like, oh, here we go, I'm out, and here's what happens.
So Jimenez then told Velasquez that he had a strap in his backpack, which would mean what, Sal?
Sure, a strap is slang for a gun.
And Velasquez said he didn't understand what Jimenez was meaning, but he heard him say, no, I can't do that. They are my friends. To himself, muttering to himself. Now, you're in a theater. There's not that many people, but it's loud. There's scenes, and your friend's acting off. But you're probably like, oh, whatever, trying to watch the movie, right? Well, then at some point, perhaps at the end of the movie, Velasquez and the 2 other friends, I don't have their names, told Jimenez that they needed to use the restroom and left the theater. So I don't know. There's no real timeline. So I was kind of guessing into the movie credits, or who knows? Maybe this is, how movies have like one more scene. I don't know, because I haven't seen this film.
Sure.
So that left only Barajas and Goodrich inside the theater with Jimenez. The plot thickens, and now I'm getting nervous, and we already know the outcome. But meanwhile, Jimenez's friends were, they left. Oh yeah, sorry. Left the theater. So they were still in the parking lot. They left the theater after the restroom. They're all hanging out together, probably thinking like, what's up with Jimenez? They're in the parking lot when they see him run out of the theater. Just mad dash. I guess they all drove separately. Gets in his vehicle and speeds away. So I would be like, yeah, nothing's adding up here. He says he's got some sort of strap or something. He's got his backpack. Now he's fleeing out of here. Movie theater employees then went to clean the theater, as they do after the movie. I've worked in a movie theater. You wait, you go in, no matter how many people, you check it out. and they found the two victims with substantial amounts of blood coming out of them and couldn't tell if they were even alive.
And this is where okay, you can't hold the movie makers accountable for this
Right.
horrific event. But here's what the problem is. I bet the employees may have heard the gunshots, but thought it was coming from the movie.
I know. I thought
They
the
didn't
same
know,
thing. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Oh, it's gunshots. Of course, it's the Purge. Of course, there's going to be gunshots. They may have heard the actual shots, but thought it was coming from the film. That's what makes it even creepier.
Yeah, and there's so many explosions in other movies. You ever been in a quiet movie next to an action-packed movie,
Sure.
and you're like listening? It's like, it's like, oh my God. And they don't make those things. They don't separate that way. When I worked at the movie theater, they weren't even thinking that way. They just move how many ticket sales or pre-sales or what they're expecting. The bigger movies go there. It doesn't matter what's next to it.
Sure.
Kind of to your point, but yes, you're right. It didn't help. It's not going to bring anybody running in. Well, Riley Goodrich died at the scene, and Anthony Barajas was put on life support, but passed away many days later, 5 days later, on July 31st, 2021, which also is my birthday. And I remember this day vividly. We just moved to Boston. It was our second night in our house, and Nico was still with us. And so it's weird because it puts me right back in that place, because it's a day that I'm connected to.
Sure.
And it's like, oh my God, I remember. And then this is his last day, and Riley passed away a few days sooner. So it's like, yeah, it was a really eerie thing to research. And you go see a movie with your friend and you never come out. It's like shocking to me. Now, go on,
Jason,
please.
there was that incident with what did the guy dressed as Bane from Batman?
Well, that happened I think it was in Colorado. He went into a loud theater. Now he went in and just started like shooting into the crowd randomly. And I was maybe something we covered, but I remember that one very well.
Yeah.
He's still alive. So a lot of those guys don't make it out.
Yes.
And speaking of which, Joseph Jimenez is alive. And a search, obviously there are 3 witnesses. His friends know who he is, and he's acting weird. And there's 2 people who were assassinated. Didn't take them long to figure it out. Well, they did a search of his home and recovered a Glock handgun and one of the victims' wallets.
More incriminating that he has the wallet than if he didn't have the wallet. Because based on his defense, right? We're going to get into his defense. Would have been better for him to have not taken a wallet, I would say.
Yeah. The victim's wallet is not a good idea, but whatever. There probably is cameras as well showing him run out and this, that, and the other. Maybe not in there, but just like who else would have come and gone? Nobody. Well, Jimenez was charged with the following charges, Sal, and why don't you read these off for us?
2 counts of first-degree murder and attempted murder, with sentencing enhancements for using a firearm, causing death, great bodily injury, and lying in wait.
Now, have you ever heard of these things? I hadn't before.
Well, I do know that in the last, I would say 20, 30 years, they've made more things a crime. Like, for example, I think stalking. Stalking is what set a lot of things off. Right. Stalking laws then created a ripple effect. So like if you go to somebody's door, let's say 3 times, you're now a stalker, whereas before that maybe wasn't a crime before, once upon a time, So things like lying in wait. Yeah, lying in wait. That may be like a newer offense than maybe 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah, they're just prey and he's waiting. It's just the 2 of them, and that becomes something else. In fact, what's not on here, and I read this in one of the articles and not the other, but there's more charges. Robbery. Obviously, he took a wallet.
There you go. That's a whole nother thing. Yes, exactly. Taking that changes things.
Yeah.
That changes motive. That changes your plea. Should change your plea, I would imagine. If you just shot somebody versus you took their wallet too.
Yeah. Well,
you shot him how many times? All those things are factors.
Absolutely. Well, there's more to this, so I'll let you continue.
The charges make Jimenez eligible for the death penalty. Jimenez has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. There you go. So if you're going to plead insanity, well, why are you taking their wallet? So you got to get
Exactly.
into those.
There's some things that don't add up, but Jimenez shared the following because he was interviewed in jail, and we'll go back and forth on these things, which are quite revealing. And, we'll take it for what it is. You've brought up the reason of insanity before in the past. You've seen people do it.
Sure.
It could just be a strategy. It could be legit, who's to say? But here's what Jimenez had to say. He had recently been diagnosed with schizophrenia, but had stopped taking his medication because he ran out of pills. Like, okay, I need to see some medical, exams, or I don't know what to think about that. If there's any truth to it, the behavior could match some of it, or he could just be a psychopath. I don't know, but please continue.
Oh, believe me, I do. This brings up other crimes that we've covered as far as people needing medication. It goes on. He heard voices in his head saying his friends and family were going to be killed, and he believed that killing Barajas and Goodrich was the only way to save his loved ones.
Now he is muttering to himself, and he is talking in ways and like, I'm not going to hurt them. They're my friends. And then here's these two people. So obviously I don't think Jimenez is right, of sound mind and body for sure.
No,
but he lock him away wherever you need to. But this guy is a complete menace to society. And, here's two wonderful people taken from us. I wish his friends had intervened more, and I'm sure they wish the same. I think I read several articles, and one of them, Velasquez was saying, had I known, I would have taken his backpack away, or maybe I think that Jillian, I'm not sure if it's a guy or a girl, had the backpack earlier and then gave it back and has regrets that they didn't just keep it. Like you don't know, but it's like, oh, if I could just go back and make one change. So Jimenez also says that because he was talking about the incident. So he walked up behind the victims, shooting Barajas first. He said Goodrich sort of jumped, and then he shot her and ran out of the theater.
So that's 2 shots only?
Didn't share more than that. That's all I got. Yes, I'm shocked that close range that Barajas was even on life support. Like, I was reading these things, like people were following this as it was going on, because here's a TikToker who has fans who's on life support. Sure. It's like, wow, this thing was really playing out for people. But yeah, I don't know how many shots, Sal. I'm not for certain.
Well, when it said execution style in the beginning, the implication is that's point blank range.
Yeah, it's like
and there you go. You could get away with just 1 and 1, because we hear these stories of people shot 10, 15 times, and these people shot once each, maybe, and dying. So yeah, point blank range. He offered condolences to the victims' families and said, "I wish I didn't do it." He also said that if he could relive the night of the shooting, he would have left the theater first and not come back.
We all wish that, but this seems like, he's showing a lot of remorse, but is this the sign of a schizophrenic, person? I don't know. It just seems inconsistent. I'm no medical doctor.
So. No, I know, Jason, but we've covered things like this before. I know for certain we talked about a crime where a person committed a horrific murder, and then they were found to be off their medication. They were in prison for a while, but then let go with the consideration that they must remain on their medication. So the idea is, as long as they're on their medication, they're okay. And they got off the crime due to reason of insanity because they were not on their medication. Very similarly here, this guy could prove in court insanity. I need my medication. They let him go. Hey, as long as you check in once a month and we know that you're on your medication, we're okay. And then he's walking on the streets out there. Terrifying. So yeah, it's an interesting time as far as who's out there walking among us.
Yeah, not just to mention that, shootings are too much the norm now. It's almost like I check out the news and where did the shooting happen this week or, today?
Sure.
And now movie theaters are a place where I have always found like solace and just comfort. And this isn't the first one. You just mentioned one that was many years ago, and there's more before that. But it's like when I go see movies now, and because I was at festivals for so long, but those are a little bit more private-ish, but it could still go bad. But I do look and take in, the exits and where I'm sitting, and right? It wouldn't even help you in a thing like this, but I mean, if someone just came in like the guy in Colorado, but it just makes me assess things and think about things in a way that I hadn't before. And now even more so after this horrific, crime. Like, you're always kind of keeping your eye out for any weirdness. I'm sure you're the same way, and we could still
Yeah,
miss
and
it,
no, unfortunately, we've become that way.
Yes.
Also, online scams. I'm on, like, let's say, casting websites every day, looking at casting notices. There's
Right.
some scams in there sometimes.
Oh,
We like
sure.
always have to be on guard all the time now. So
Yeah.
vigilant, hyper vigilant. We want to know where the emergency exit is. We want to know if this email is a scam. We gotta watch our ass like never before in history, I think, on a daily basis.
And even then, it's like,
Yeah, even then, you cannot
you
100%
know,
prevent anything, because you
can't.
have to let your guard down at some point to watch a movie. Can you watch a movie for crying out loud without
That's what
having
I'm
to
saying.
look over your shoulder? Yeah, that's where we're at.
I could see, and I don't think I would even mind if they, did a metal detectors at movies. In fact, in this day and age where we are, I don't know why we wouldn't. Just to kind of, not saying you couldn't work around that, but it's like, if you're gonna, why wouldn't you?
No, it's
The
a good
trust
point.
factor is kind of like, well, or why is someone bringing a freaking backpack in? When I worked in a movie theater, you couldn't bring in anything outside, like, because they're just looking back then. It's like they're sneaking concessions in.
Well,
But
that's how bad it was then. At least they were just sneaking concessions in
exactly.
versus
Yeah.
a
They don't
gun.
want to
Yeah.
spend $12 on a Coke, but I just wouldn't let certain things fly. But
Yeah. So much is a sign of the times. And unfortunately, when you look at the sign of the times, the signs of the times, very sad. Very sad.
Well, as for our victims, there are two different, and they started a while ago because it's 2021, but they have individual GoFundMe's, which I looked at, and they're still active because Anthony Barajas was on life support.
Wow.
And there was a lot of money that this was to offset that extra medical expenses.
Sure.
And Riley Goodrich, it was to cover funeral cost. And I think both exceeded their goals, but these are things like, hey, we just want to help put it back out there, the message. And also I was reading more about them individually on these GoFundMe's, and it was like just a reminder. Anthony's 19 years old. He was a multi-sport high school athlete and standout soccer player. Even closer to my heart reading this. My God, he's already a TikTok star. This kid was a shining star in so many ways. And Riley, 18-year-old high school cheerleader who also ran track and played volleyball. Here's these two like all-American kids. Yeah. Just in Corona, California, going to see a movie. And this happens. And I can only imagine how devastated the families are. They'll never recover from this. But if anybody wants to help, GoFundMe. Sal, if you want to, because it's just GoFundMe.com, then / if you looked up what you want to say, the URLs, just their part.
Sure. That would be GoFundMe.com/F/Anthony Barajas. That's ANTHONY Barajas, BARAJAS. And Riley Goodrich, GoFundMe.com/F/Riley Goodrich Financial Expenses. That's Riley Goodrich, GOODRICH Financial Expenses. Sorry, Riley is RYLEE. Riley Goodrich Financial Expenses on GoFundMe. Rest in peace, Anthony. Rest in peace, Riley. A horrible tragedy. Horrible when things like this happen, because you know what? It just it stirs up everything. It stirs up our own safety. It stirs up these innocent kids. Yeah. It's just horrible. Horrid event.
It is. It's terrible. But real quick, expenses is actually spelled incorrectly.
What?
But it's EXPENCES
instead of SES.
But it's a small thing. I was just saying, take that.
No, you're right though. That way they can find it. You're right. It is spelled EXPENCES instead of SES.
Yeah. In fact, if you just put in Anthony Barajas and
or Riley Goodrich, you're probably gonna find it.
You're gonna find them, and that's if you want to just go take a look, donate if you want to. But it's the least we can do is talk about it and shed a light on that and honor them, honor our victims. And, I looked, and you know how things take to go to trial, right? Sure. This happened in 2021. We're now in 2023. And there was there was no trial yet that I was looking for Jimenez.
Yes.
So again, as I always say, for a crime that's still unfolding as far as the punishment, if we ever get an update or remember to look, or it happens and it's in the news, maybe we'll come back and do a quick update.
Yeah.
Ideally and hopefully, Jimenez is put away for a long time and not rejoining society, where this could happen again, these ruthless and senseless acts of crime. But we cover these things on our show, and this is not a fun one to do, but an important one. And I'm glad we did so.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, this is a real painful one. It really is. It really is. The tragedy of the victims, and the possibility of the outcome of the trial. I think, yeah, definitely this definitely deserves a follow-up from us on our part.
Yeah. And that covers the true crime story of the TikTok star and friend murdered while watching The Forever Purge in 2021. Sal, we will be back with more crimes, some lighter, some as dark as this, because on That's a Crime, we cover what?
We cover everything from a misdemeanor to a murder. So yes, I would like to have a nice, pleasant, rather pleasant or not unpleasant misdemeanor next.
That's what I'm. So thank you so much for listening, and please be sure to subscribe to the That's a Crime podcast and the That's a Crime YouTube live channel. You can also really help us by giving the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast.
And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk.
Hang on.
There we go. And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any That's a Crime social media platform.
We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com. Great job.